Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Katawa Shoujo part 25. Last we left off, we saw Hanako behind us. So surprising. Good afternoon, Hanako.
Hello.
Shizune finally notices Hanako after looking up and following the gazes of Misha and I. In quick measure, she taps Misha on the shoulder to get her attention before signing away.
Shi-chan says if you're looking for a group, you can join ours.
Hanako looks down and blushes a little at the offer. Out of all the people in the class, Hanako's most familiar with the three of us, so it's reasonable that she'd come to us first. Then again, her actually coming up to a group with the intention of joining them is something she apparently very rarely did before. She leaves briefly to drag her desk over, and Shizune and Misha wheel back to me as soon as her back is turned.
I guess we get to play again, Hi-chan. You hardly ever play with us anymore.
I'll play with you two lovely ladies. Don't you worry. I wonder why. You two always seem to have an ulterior motive.
That hurt, Hi-chan. I'd almost think you were insulting me. But it's Hi-chan, so I know that you're joking.
Such a great sense of humor about it. It'd be awful if someone were to take advantage of your good nature, like making you help them with their work.
Wahaha!
Shizune seems excited for a second, a little surprised that I'm willing to challenge her, but when she sees Hanako coming back, she backs off with a smile. I guess the mind games are over early today. Hanako gently sets down her desk in front of Misha's. Her eyes are locked downwards, and I'm left wondering why until I look around the class. Most are busy setting up their groups, but a few are casting curious glances at her. At this range, it's hard to tell whether that is where their interest in her ends, or if they are talking about her as well. It's strange. No one bats an eyelid when Hanako runs out of the class to avoid group work, but now that she's making an effort, they're staring at her as if she's done something wrong. We all move to sort ourselves out, spreading our textbooks and worksheets around the larger surface created by the 4 joined desks. It isn't long before the class as a whole gets down to work.
Hi, Hanako. It's nice to finally work with you. Yeah. Are you the reason Hi-chan has been avoiding us lately? Shi-chan says it's a little rude, but if Hi-chan wants to spend time with a cute girl, it's understandable. I don't think it's like that.
Hanako starts to fidget, unused to this kind of attention. I think that an ordinary person would drop the conversation by now, but Misha is like the antithesis of Hanako. Part of that includes being blind to ordinary social cues, while Hanako is overly sensitive to them. Because of that, Misha barrels ahead with the questions, too quickly for me to get a chance to interject and guide the discussion somewhere more comfortable.
Really? So he hasn't been hanging out with you yesterday? No.
I can feel my cover being blown already. Lily didn't want Hanako to know that we were out buying presents for her, let alone planning out her birthday party. It wouldn't be good for her to find out. Yeah, I was doing something else. You know how it is.
Really? I wonder what was so important for Hi-chan to blow us off like that. If it wasn't to spend time with Hanako, then what could it be? It's really interesting.
Now this is starting to feel like an interrogation. I'm surprised at how Misha is able to exert such a feeling of pressure without actually intending to.
What? Were you with Lily?
Out of nowhere, Hanako manages to stumble on the answer. She may be dreadfully quiet and shy, but she's very intuitive. What makes you say that?
Yesterday, Lily said something similar. Suspicious, Hi-chan. I demand that you explain yourself.
Hey, shouldn't we be doing the assignment?
But it's so mysterious. Even Hanako wants to know.
I turn to look at Hanako. It's true. From the expression on her face, it's obvious that she wants to know as well, and I think we're past the point where I could weasel out of having to provide an explanation. I apologized to Lily in my mind. She really did want to keep it a secret, but now it doesn't seem possible anymore. I feel a rush of conflicting emotions, so jumbled that I can't really identify them, but they crash around in my head as I try to calm down and speak. Alright, I'll tell you. I went into town with Lily, but it wasn't what you think. Lily and I were, for Hanako's birthday, the cat is out of the bag, but it looks like Hanako is taking it a little better than I thought she would. A brief silence passes around our little group as Shizune and Misha look at each other sheepishly. I can tell that they didn't expect their game to turn out like this. Misha looks up to Hanako in order to apologize, then pauses. Hanako is staring at the middle of her desk and barely moving, a maudlin expression on her face. I guess I was wrong about her taking it well. Hanako? I'm sorry. There's a few seconds pause, but Hanako lifts and shakes her head.
It's okay.
Her expression looks odd, like she's very tired. That doesn't seem natural, but it's nothing alarming. Nobody really wants to continue with the current conversation, so we open our textbooks and begin our group work. This is pretty dull. While the equations we're supposed to work out as a group will take a while, most of it is going to be boringly mechanical. It also doesn't help that while that didn't go as bad as it could have, it has left an awkward atmosphere around us. Still we manage. Shizune's face betrays that she has about the same expectations of work as I do, and the both of us begin to write our group's results. Misha, on the other hand, is scrunching up her lips and very visibly trying to make heads or tails of what we're doing. Hanako is looking on quietly, absorbing what we write and what I say. She usually has the same expression when the teacher speaks. It's a shame her attendance is so unreliable. With the way she takes in information, I think she'd do quite well in class, if she actually followed the lessons regularly. I wonder if this might be why Shizune seems so hard on her. Hey Hanako, do you understand this? Misha looks to Hanako, but I suspect her hope is more to find a comrade in ignorance than genuine help.
Not really, I guess.
I'm surprised by how tense she is in answering, but she settles back down. She breathes out, and the way her upper body and head lower reminds me of a deflating balloon. You okay? I could go over this a bit if you want. Hanako shakes her head slightly, but then again, I don't think she needs the extra explanation despite what she said. Misha quickly interjects, entirely oblivious, and I end up slowly going through how we ended up at one of our results step by step. Times like this remind me that this kind of work may not be mechanical for everyone, but rather feels that way to me due to my grasp of the subject. It's a satisfying feeling. As Misha brings her balled fist onto an open hand in realization, I discover another nice feeling. My explanation got through to her, and she manages to work out the next equation by herself with a minimum of guidance. Throughout all of this, Hanako is unusually unresponsive. She is normally very quiet, but one can still see her eyes roving periodically over the landscape of the classroom in front of her, or anxiously moving her hands in some way or shifting her shoulders periodically. Right now, these still movements that I've gotten used to seeing are all missing. Someone not moving at all is definitely weird. Even Misha can tell there's something wrong. Hanako, are you sure you're okay?
Yes.
Are you okay?
I'm fine.
A little more strongly this time, but she turns away as she says it. It only makes me doubt her answer, yet at the same time I can tell she doesn't want to talk about it further. 1 second, gonna take a drink. Having already had one awkward conversation today that I'm not fully over, I don't want to pursue the matter too much either. We settle back into our routine, debating over our answers whenever a doubt comes up. But as time goes on, I notice that Hanako isn't talking at all. It's frustrating. She had made so much progress. It makes me a little angry at Shizune and Misha for undoing the surprise Lily and I wanted to keep secret so much. I know I'm at fault too. Maybe I could have kept it under wraps somehow. Shizune has noticed Hanako's silence as well. It is also getting antsy. I can see it on her face. It's strange that even though she's deaf, Shizune has perceived Hanako's unusual quietness sooner than Misha.
Hanako, you're being too quiet. You have to contribute too. Someday we might work on a bigger project, like one that's so big it's worth celebrating afterwards, like with ice cream or cake. If you act like this, we won't take you along.
I can tell that they're trying to tease her to bring her out of her shell, but I don't think that kind of approach will work on Hanako. It will just make her feel worse. Guys, don't tease her like that.
Hichan, it's all in good fun. Shichan says she teases everyone anyway.
They do back off though, with Misha moving away from the issue by asking me a question again. On seeing how difficult the problem she is working on is, I don't know whether it was a skillful dodge or mere coincidence. It takes way more of our time than necessary, because Shizune keeps disagreeing with me while I'm trying to explain it to Misha. And Misha is quick to believe her over me, so quick in fact that she forgets to translate what Shizune is saying. Hey, the clock is kinda ticking down. We should speed up a little.
Hichan, you sound a little like Shichan there.
Just because I looked at my watch? Geez, is that really all it takes? Time management and suddenly I'm the student council president? I look at Hanako's desk to see how she's doing and freeze. Our papers are covered in equation, but Hanako's only halfway there. It seems like she hasn't written anything in the past 20 minutes. When I realize, I want to kick myself for how dumb I've been. Let me go to options real quick. Just a little higher. I know I should have known that someone as fragile as Hanako wasn't just going to brush off what happened so easily, but I've been so eager to move on from an awkward situation to notice. She's been slowly shutting herself down for the last half hour, and I had no clue. Her pen is still in her hand, and she doesn't slowly spin it around like she usually does. There isn't a single idle movement from Hanako. Only the fact that she tries to inch away when she feels Shizune, Misha, and I looking at her tells me that she is even still conscious. We look away, and at least in my case, it's partly out of shame that it's gotten to this point. Though on the outside she is shut down almost completely, I know that it's a different story on the inside. What kinds of things could she be thinking about as she tries harder and harder to shrink herself, as if by willing it she could somehow disappear? Everyone is looking at her, now stealing quick glances in between putting the finishing touches on their work. Misha attempts to ask her what's wrong, but that only makes the problem worse. If she weren't frozen to her seat, she would probably run out of the room right now. Misha's questions are loud enough to be heard throughout the entire classroom, and for a second I'm ready to snap at her, because I can only imagine how much worse it's making Hanako feel. Of course, if I were to do that, it would only make the situation worse. I'd believed that Hanako had gotten stronger, and she has, but it wasn't enough, and I was too eager to believe it. Now she's terrified, alone in the middle of the classroom, and there's nothing I could do without drawing more attention to her. Now, I just want to make a comment. Like, if you look at her, it looks like she's crying, right? Is that just in the visual that we see, or is that actually happening? Because Hisao doesn't comment on it whatsoever. It's infuriating. Misha's worried, and even Shizune is biting her lip. None of us know how to deal with this situation, so I decide to call Muto. His judgment would probably be better than ours. I look up and manage to catch his eye, silently motioning for him to come over. I want to make as little a fuss about this as possible, since if there's anything that would make this worse, it's more attention being focused on her. I know that Hanako can see everyone staring at our group, specifically at her, because they know that if there's a problem, it has to be her. Everyone knows her, and it's the first thing anyone's mind would leap to. Her reputation for being a truant has marked her as an unusual person, even an unusual Yamaku. Who knows how many times they have stared at her before? Maybe it's because she's seen the class staring at her so much that she fears their gaze like she does, cowering from them. The time it takes Muto to walk over must be like an eternity for Hanako, as she looks as if she's about to fall over. Muto quietly begins to ask us what's wrong before catching himself as he sees Hanako.
Did we upset her?
Don't worry. Muto bends down after calming Misha and looks intently at Hanako's face. Hi, Ikazawa. Can I help you at all? His voice is hushed and gentle. Everyone's acting so different around Hanako now that the whole class has noticed something's wrong with her. Hanako doesn't respond, so Muto gently rests a hand on her shoulder. She starts shaking at his touch, but won't even look up. Hanako continues to stare into the equations on her desks, vision so unfocused that I doubt she even sees them. She's worse than before. I remember that not even an hour ago she was able to talk to him almost normally. Muto grimaces a bit as he stands again, and now that his expression's changed, I can see he wasn't exactly unaffected by what happened either. He takes a breath to settle himself before speaking in a very quiet voice. I'm a little impressed at how quickly he takes control of the situation.
Is that it? Nothing's wrong then?
Muto seems to say that to no one in particular. However, his words sound convincing enough that most of the people who are looking over at Hanako now turn away, getting back to their work. He gives a quick glance to his left and right. Several people at their desks around us are still staring curiously, but other than that, we seem to have escaped attracting too much attention. Muto notices me doing the same as him and smiles a little in his unusual stilted way. I think, for Ikazawa's sake, that it would be good to quickly take her somewhere away from others. Nakai, Hakamichi, could you take Ikazawa out of the classroom? I'll keep everyone settled, so please don't worry about anything but her, okay? He looks at Misha to tell her to interpret his words for Shizune, but she's already finishing her translation by the time he does so. It's remarkable how little thought she needs to sign, as she still looks quite dazed otherwise. Letting Shizune and I stand and move to either side of Hanako, Muto steps back to allow us some room, and talks to the table behind us as some people there have begun to mutter between themselves about what's going on. We look at each other before lowering ourselves in unison, taking one arm around each of our shoulders and lifting. The two of us begin to walk at a slow pace to make sure we don't inadvertently hurt her. As much as we try to make this look normal, I'm quite sure there would be many more gazes on us if not for Muto's distraction. Eventually, thankfully, we reach the door and go through. Nobody's outside, so we walk down the hallway. It doesn't seem like it's making her more at ease than she was in the classroom. Finally, I asked if she wants to just sit down. For a while, we simply stay in place and wait for her to say something. Shizune tentatively rubs Hanako's shoulders a little, but there's no response. Eventually, she shakes her head a little when Shizune tries again. Both of us are looking at her, so we pick on it immediately. Shizune's hand again comes to rest on Hanako's shoulder as she awakens, her face lifting to two very worried and anxious people looking at her. She looks at us silently for a while. I'm initially worried she might freak out or do something extreme, but those fears prove unwarranted as her expression slowly changes from an almost lifeless blank state to a more normal withdrawn shyness. She wordlessly lowers her head, her eyes evasively moving to the side. She looks embarrassed, almost ashamed. I want to say something, anything to help. I can't though. I don't really know what just happened, or even what caused it. I feel helpless and ashamed of myself for not being of any use. Shizune signs before looking at me. Even without words, I think I can tell what she's asking. I'll take Hanako to the nurse. Is that okay by you? I try to communicate my intentions through hand gestures, but I don't feel like I managed to get through to her very well. Shizune makes a dreary face in response to my gesticulations, confirming my impression. She stabs her finger in the air decisively, first at me, then at Hanako, and then towards the stairs. She waits for me to nod before pointing at herself, then pointing at the door to the classroom. I get the feeling Shizune is much better at this than I am. I nod at her, since her plan is after all the same as mine. Shizune gets ready to make her exit, but she only leaves after looking at Hanako for quite some time. Are you okay with me taking you to the nurse's office? Hanako doesn't say anything or nod, but she Sorry? But she stands up in place by herself, and when I begin to walk she obediently follows. I've read about people being catatonic before, but I think this is my first time seeing it for myself. She looks extremely tired after everything that's happened. It's not a surprise. Okay, gonna end the part there. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you later. Peace.